Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesa Sunyavadi Pasyatyadishatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hari Bol. Oh Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Oh Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Oh Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Oh Hare Krishna, Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hari Bol. Oh, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Oh, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Oh, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Oh, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Oh, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hari Bol. Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Oh, Nittai Gauranga, Nittai Gauranga, Nittai Gauranga, Nittai Gauranga, oh, Nittai Gauranga, Gaura Hare, oh, Nittai Gauranga, Gaura Hare. Jai Sachinandana, Jai Sachinandana, Jai Sachinandana, Jai Sachinandana, Jai Sachinandana, Gaura Hare, oh, Jai Sachinandana, Gaura Hare. Nityananda Ram, Jaya Nityananda Ram. Oh, Nityananda Ram, Jaya Nityananda Ram. Oh, Patita Pavana Nityananda Ram. Oh, Patita Pavana Nityananda Ram. Oh, Nittai, 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 Nittai Gauranga. Oh, Nittai, 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 Nittai Gauranga. Oh, Nittai Gauranga, Gaura Hare. Oh, Nittai Gauranga. Ram Ram Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare.
Oh Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare.
Oh Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare.
Oh Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Oh Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare.
Oh Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Krishna, Krishna Krishna,
Hare
Hare
Hare.
Hare Ram, Hare Hare.
Oh Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare.
Oh Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare.
Oh Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare.
Oh Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Hare Hare.
Oh Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare.
Nitai Gauranga, Nitai Gauranga,
Nitai Gauranga,
Nitai Gauranga Jaya, Nitai Gauranga,
Nitai Gauranga Jaya, Nitai Gauranga,
Nitai Gauranga Gaura Hare,
Nitai Gauranga, Gaura Hare,
Nitai Gauranga Gaura Hare,
Nitai Gauranga, Gaura Hare,
Oh Gaura Hare Jaya Gaura Hare,
Gaura Hare Jaya, Gaura Hare,
Gaura Hare Jaya Gaura Hare,
Gaura Hare Jaya, Gaura Hare,
Jaya Sachinandana Gaura Hare,
Jai Sachinandana Gaura Hare,
Nityananda Ram Jaya Nityananda Ram,
Nityananda Ram Jaya, Nityananda Ram,
Nityananda Ram Jaya Nityananda Ram,
Nityananda Ram Jaya, Nityananda Ram,
Patita Pavana Nityananda Ram,
Hari-katha Pavana Nityananda Ram,
Jai Jagannath Jaya Jagannath,
Jaya Jagannath, Jaya Jagannath,
Jai Jagannath Swami Jaya Jagannath,
Jaya Jagannath Swami, Jaya Jagannath,
Jai Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada.
Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada.
Govinda Swami Guru Deva, Govinda Swami Guru Deva.
Govinda Swami Guru Deva, Jaya Govinda Swami Guru Deva.
Jaya Murali Krishna Swami Guru Deva, Murali Krishna Swami Guru Deva.
Murali Krishna Swami Guru Deva, Jaya Murali Krishna Swami Guru.
Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur Hari Bol.
Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol.
Premanam Sankirtan Jai ki Jai. Ki Jai. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Srila Govinda Swami, Srila Gurudev ki Jai. Srila Gurudev ki Jai. Samaveda Bhakta Binda ki Jai. Gaura Premanande. All glory to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasudeva Shri Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. How's everyone today? You look cold. Feeling a little cold? Everyone's doing good? Okay. What are we talking about? I have a question. Can I ask you guys a question? Just to start us off. Why did Arjuna, why did he surrender to Krishna? They're friends, very close associates. Why did Arjuna surrender to Krishna? Who can say? Yes?
Because Arjuna realized that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of the Godhead and only Krishna can help him on that situation.
So he understood that he was Supreme Personality of Godhead Bhagavan, and he wanted help. Is that sufficient enough answer? Is it partly correct? Who else can say? Yes.
He admitted his defeat. He realized nothing.
Huh?
He realized nothing was working. He admitted his defeat.
David knows very well nothing's working, right? Nothing's working materially, nothing working spiritually. Okay, that's also part of it. Yes?
All these doubts were removed.
Hmm?
All these doubts were removed.
It says all his doubts were removed.
And he listened.
But that was after he surrendered. My question, why did he surrender? Right, later, once he surrendered, then he got everything cleared out, right? So why did he surrender?
He could not understand what is religion, what is irreligion. He was totally bewildered, and he was knowing that Krishna, he has all the answers. He is a reservoir of knowledge and all pleasure. So he was seeking that.
So this was just about him seeking knowledge?
Not seeking only knowledge, but like everything he has in abundance. So he wanted to like remove his situation, remove himself from bewilderment and surrender then.
Okay, so bewilderment, he's seeking answers, right? Go deeper. Why else? Yes? Why? Why did he surrender to Krishna? I'm like a teacher. I'm giving the test today.
Because Prabhu is saying because Arjuna could understand that he cannot solve his problem and nobody else like friend or family cannot also help him, so he need a spiritual master.
So again, there was that he couldn't figure it out materially or spiritually, right? But that's not enough. Why else? Yes.
To set a good example for mankind.
He was setting an example? And what was the example? What's the example? Why he should surrender to Krishna? What is he trying to teach? What made him to surrender to Krishna? Yeah? So what does that really mean? Yes.
He can't do it on his own.
Hmm?
He understood he couldn't do it on his own.
He could not do it on his own.
Not do what on his own? Yes? This is like Vrindavan pastimes, right?
Ну, я думаю, потому что у него любовь была к Кришне. Без любви ты не можешь предаться.
Because he had love for Krishna, because without love you cannot surrender.
He always has love for Krishna, but he wasn't surrendering.
Потому что он
So why
сильно
did he
страдал.
surrender? Yes.
Friendly talks were not working with Krishna.
Huh?
Friendly talks were not working with Krishna.
Yes, but why did he surrender? Yeah?
Чтобы не предаваться своему уму, принять авторитет нужно.
He surrendered to Krishna in order not to surrender to his mind.
And what does that mean?
А что это означает?
Yeah?
Потому что он очень сильно страдал, он полностью был дисквалифицирован и понял, что ничего больше не работает, и осознал это, и эти страдания привели его к тому, что он принял его как высший авторитет и сказал, что я хочу быть твоим учеником, ты будь моим учителем.
Because he realized his suffering condition.
All of that situation brought so much suffering to him that he couldn't tolerate it. And whatever he was trying to think of to get out of such a suffering condition, right? Yes, he was bewildered. Yes, he didn't know what to do materially and spiritually, right? But what was the reason was his suffering, because he was suffering so badly. And then he realized, I'm bewildered. He realized that I'm not solving it with my arguments, materially, spiritually. So that suffering condition was so bad, and nothing he could think of or plan or some other kind of way out of it, that he was 100% convinced it's not going to relieve him from that suffering condition. So therefore that suffering of the living entity, of the conditioned soul, is what makes them ask this question, especially in human form of life: why am I suffering like this? And then, if I'm suffering like this, everything we're trying to do to solve it, it's not working. And even it's getting worse, or more bewildering, more perplexing, more complicated, more painful, more disturbing. So again, a suffering condition. So human form of life means to realize the suffering condition. Due to our forgetfulness of Krishna, we're getting different reactions, different punishment. They're heavy lashes. And it's so heavy, if we're conscious enough, that it becomes intolerable. So none of his mental adjustments, none of his arguments, none of his plans or excuses, Prabhupada calls them, he's skillfully trying to avoid surrendering to Krishna. So nothing was working to relieve him from his suffering condition. So material world, this is prison house, means this is a meant for suffering position. You don't go to the prison house to enjoy. You're going there to get some reaction, some punishment, some hellish situation. And people who are in there, hardcore, prisoners, criminals, right? They even say, you don't understand what it is to be inside of a prison, right? Whatever plan you have to basically what you're going to do there, right? It's just purely how to survive. Of course, different prisons in different parts of the world have a different level of that type of intensity or fearfulness or anxiety. But basically, it's a suffering condition, which is a reaction or a punishment, because we want to forget about Krishna, we don't want to surrender to Krishna, we want to act independently of Krishna, and that's because of bodily concept of life. We want to enjoy, we want to be independent, we want to control everything, so we're imitating, Prabhupada says, you're imitating Krishna, Krishna's position. So we're not accepting that our position, the Sanatana Dharma, means eternal servant of Krishna. So because we're not accepting that, and we're not cooperating in that, therefore we're in a suffering position. We're in a punishable place to teach us that one lesson. Someone asked Srila Prabhupada, if God is all-knowing and He's all-powerful, why, and everything's perfect, why would He create such an imperfect, painful situation here? And Prabhupada answered the person, because this is what you wanted. This is what you created for yourself. Now you can try to say, well, let's talk about the origins and, since time immemorial and all of that. Okay, that's a nice discussion. But Prabhupada said, let's not waste too much time on it, because the bottom line is you're in a disease condition, you're in a suffering condition, and therefore you should think, I'm being punished, I'm in anxiety, I'm in a suffering condition, this is intolerable situation. When it becomes intolerable, and nothing and no one and anything we can think of, or any adjustments, mental, physical, changing your place or relationship or job, anything, your house, everything material adjustment, not taking it away. Because uncontrolled mind and senses, sinful thoughts, sinful desires, sinful activity that we're either acting on or trying to not act on, and then frustration, anger, disturbance, to no peace, to the point that no freedom from any type of suffering position, condition. So every waking moment you're in a purely anxiety-ridden, disturbing situation where there's no material solution. So when we try everything material and none of that is working, then someone says, well, did you pray to God? You know, go to the church, go to the temple, you know, go to the top of the mountain, go out on the ocean, go in the forest, go somewhere. Try to pray to God or do meditation, yoga, try to find God within yourself. Everybody comes to the conclusion that nothing material is going to solve it, and only it's going to take a spiritual solution. So that suffering, that anxiety, that disturbance, the human person who can perceive that will look for ultimately a spiritual solution. And in that solution, Krishna says, if you surrender to me, then I'll get rid of your karma, karma pala. I'll free you from Maya, Mama Maya, Dharataya, which is impossible to get out of without surrender to Krishna. So if we don't realize that we're in a suffering condition, then why would we think to surrender to Krishna? Not theoretically, not sentimentally, not superficially. I mean seriously, genuinely, because nothing else is going to work. If we're suffering, you can say, well, I'm officially surrendering to Krishna. I'm institutionally surrendering to Krishna. I'm theoretically surrendering to Krishna. I'm emotionally surrendering to Krishna. So we can say all of those things, but unless we actually surrender to Krishna, Krishna will not release us from heavy lashes and the pounding, the suffering due to the material modes of nature. And that's the final test. If you say, oh, I have a guru, I'm in a spiritual institution, you know, I'm doing seva, right? So that's still external, because it's a question of internal surrender. So we cannot just busy ourselves and somehow convince ourselves that all of that external arrangement is my surrender to Krishna. That's an external consideration. So if we're thinking that we're surrendering to Krishna, but the internals are still telling you're not peaceful, you're not settled, you're not in purified, happy state of Krishna consciousness, you're still suffering, you're still in anxiety, you still don't know what to do, you're still groping in the dark. So all of this external consideration is not really solving the ultimate problem. This suffering, especially in Kali Yuga, this is what brought us to try to find a spiritual solution. That's why we came to the church, we came to the temple, we came to Krishna consciousness, to looking for some relief, some answers, some way of life which can somehow give you some kind of relief. Only later we found out, okay, it's an spiritual institution, and you know, you have to accept a guru and all of this type of external thing. But one mistake we can also make is you join the religious institution, you officially accept some guru, you're chanting, you're going through the sadhana process, you're doing seva, and then we can just say, okay, that's my surrender. I'm surrendering to Krishna. But if that's really true, and it's internal and external, then we should be able to see practically that all of our anxiety and suffering and disturbance and all of this thing which is harassing us should go away. If it's not going away, you can say, well, I'm not in the right place, I'm not this, I'm not that. No, we're not surrendering to Krishna. That's the bottom line. Krishna says, if you surrender to me, I will release you. Prabhupada says Krishna will tell Maya, instruct Maya, okay, leave this person alone. Free them from threefold miseries. Free them from karmic action and reaction. and the karma phala. So it's a question of surrender. So if we don't realize the suffering, there's no genuine surrender required. Because whatever level you feel like satisfied socially, so-called spiritually, economically, then you can just, okay, this is fine, this is nice, this is sufficient. But if we cannot perceive our suffering condition, then we'll not actually surrender to Krishna. And then we'll just busy ourselves thinking that, okay, externally everything is nice. Right? I'm in association of devotees, I have a guru, I'm chanting holy name, pranam mantra, right? All of these different things. I'm doing sadhana, I'm chanting my rounds, I'm studying the books, I'm doing work, haven't had a day off in 15 years. That's okay, fine. But are we still suffering? Are we still in anxiety? Do we feel genuine shelter and protection? Do we feel purified mind, intelligence, and senses, which are the enemies within? So all of this thing has to be analyzed, and Prabhupada said you judge everything on the results. So external adjustments is not an act of surrender. The real surrender is internal. And if our soul doesn't realize our position or condition, and we're not conscious enough to realize that we're in such a suffering condition, we'll not really understand nor execute the quality of surrender that Krishna will accept in order to release us from that suffering condition. So why this is important, because otherwise we're having talk of philosophy and Krishna, yes, he's God, and yes, we're all servants of Krishna. If all of that discussion does not make us conscious enough to realize our suffering condition, enough to completely surrender to Krishna, then we're not really in the spiritual life. And what our idea of spiritual life is may not be necessarily spiritual. It might be mental, sentimental, pious, right? Real spiritual life is internal, not external. And I also made the same mistake. I was practicing more internally, then I came to ISKCON. And then because I was so busy doing everything, sadhana, studying, reading, chanting, distributing books, full time, morning to night, I thought, okay, that's my surrender. But after some time, I realized, I don't feel satisfied. I'm still unhappy. My mind senses are not peaceful. I'm not really happy. I'm still in a suffering, bewildered, confused situation. I don't have all the answers. I have too many doubts, too much attachment, too much attraction, on and on and on. And why is all of that still there? Is because I'm not surrendering. I wasn't surrendering. Then I realized, I went from internal to get here. We internally got here because of Krishna prompting us, right? And then what? Krishna just dropped us off at the front door? And then after that, we're just being handed over to some other kind of organization, which is like an official act of surrender. So it means that consciously, moment to moment, manmana bhava mat bhakto, means being my devotee, means surrendering to Krishna moment to moment. Cultivation of moment to moment consciousness and surrender to Krishna. Now that's either going to be done out of attraction and love for Krishna, or we're going to need another motivation. So I was reading this morning, and recently I've been making this statement, and then this morning I saw it in Srimad Bhagavatam, and I want to just read you what Maitreya Rishi was telling to Vidura, and see if this sounds familiar to you. But it's really just on this particular point. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. This is in Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd canto, 7th chapter, Further Inquiries by Vidura. And this is text number 17. And it says, Yascha mudha tamo loke yas cha budhe paramgata tav abho sukham edheti klishatya antarito jana. Translation. Both the lowest of fools, Mudatama, and he who is transcendental to all material intelligence, Padam Buddhi, enjoys happiness. Whereas the persons between them, they suffer the material pangs which are due to the threefold miseries. So we were just saying, right, many times recently, that the only way we can be happy is if we are on the transcendental platform, beyond even Sattva Gun, means surrender to Krishna, transcendental to all material intelligence, or if we are the lowest of fools, I've been calling it, what was I calling it? Shuddhatama, right? So pure ignorance, or say complete ignorance, because it can't be like pure ignorance, right? So complete ignorance. So here it's called Mudatama. So those who are lowest of the fools, they're thinking themselves happy. Or we're completely surrendered to Krishna. Krishna's ordered Maya to release you, and therefore you're not feeling the pangs of the material nature under the threefold miseries. And then there's the rest of us who was somewhere in the middle there, right? And then Prabhupada says in this purport, the lowest of fools, they do not understand material miseries. If we don't understand material miseries, why are we going to try to solve it? If we don't realize we're in a suffering condition, why will we look for a solution or freedom from that? So the Mudatama, lowest of fools, they do not understand material miseries. And they pass their lives merrily and do not inquire into the miseries of life. Why am I suffering like this? Why am I in this position? Why is this being forced upon me? Such persons, Prabhupada says, are almost on the level of the animals, who, although in the eyes of superiors, those who have knowledge, they realize they're always miserable in their life. They are unaware of material distress. So the level of the animals, they're actually living a miserable life, but they cannot realize it, and because they're unaware of this suffering or material distresses. Do you feel suffering, material distress? Yeah? Is it nice? Not really, right? So then Prabhupada says, a hog's life is degraded in its standard of happiness, which entails living in a filthy place, engaged in sex enjoyment at every opportune moment, and laboring hard, struggling daily for their existence. But all of that is unknown to the hog. They think, no, I have a very nice life. I have a nice food stuff. sex life, everything. Everything's very nice. So similarly, Prabhupada says, human beings who are unaware of the miseries of the material existence and are happy in the sense gratification of sex life and laboring hard like an ass, they are the lowest of fools. Yet, because they have no sense of miseries, they supposedly enjoy so-called happiness. The other class of men who are liberated and are situated in the transcendental position, Brahmabhuta Prasanatma, above even material intelligence or sattva gun, are really happy, and they are called the Paramahamsa. But persons who are neither like the hogs and the dogs, nor on the level of Paramahamsas, they're feeling the material pangs and suffering and anxiety. And for them, inquiry about the supreme truth is necessary. The Vedanta Sutra states, Atato Brahma Jigyasa. Now, one should inquire seriously about Brahman, about spiritual life. This inquiry is necessary for those who are between the Paramahamsas and the fools who have forgotten the question of self-realization in the midst of this life of material sense gratification. So this knowledge, we were reading the other day from Shukadeva Goswami, what says that this information is for those people who want moksha, those who realize they are in a suffering condition due to being conditioned soul, and they want to try to find a way how to purify life and consciousness, elevate the consciousness in order to surrender to Krishna, in order to get free from this threefold miseries. Are you tired today? You look exhausted. Who are you associating with? You can't be that tired listening to everybody else, right? We're our own worst enemy. We're exhausted. Because as soon as you wake up, your mind is like, oh, there's my friend, okay. There it is, okay, what are we talking about today? And whatever the mind wants to discuss, we're like, okay, I'm listening. What should I worry about today? What's my problem today? So we have a surrendering problem. Right now, we're surrendering to Maya. We become Maya Das, Maya Dasi, instead of Krishna Das, Krishna Dasi. And because of that, we are naturally in a suffering condition due to threefold miseries. Hari-atmaka, Hari-bodhaka, Hari-daivaka. What's it called, threefold miseries? What's it called?
Misery.
The kleshas, what is it? The threefold miseries?
Suffering from your body and mind.
Sanskrit.
Tritap.
Huh?
Tritap.
Tree?
He's saying three tapas. The three tapas.
Tapas.
Yeah.
Tree tapas. Is that right? Is that correct? I'm asking Sanatan. Hare Krishna. So threefold miseries are there. So we have to be like scientists. We have to be conscious enough, intelligent enough to understand. Maitreya is talking about what are the reactions. We're talking about actions and reactions. If we act in this way, what result or reaction we get? If we act in another way, because somehow our intelligence, mind, and senses are misdirected, then what is that action? Okay, you're calling it spiritual, but then why is all of the reaction not giving spiritual result? That's very bewildering. I'm surrendered, I have faith, I dedicated my life, right? But the reactions, the anxiety, the disturbance, the doubts, the suffering condition, the lack of shelter and protection, the bewilderment, the complexity, that's not going away. So how is it like this? But in our mind, in our emotion, in our intelligence, in our heart, we're surrendered to Krishna. That's why we're so frustrated, disappointed, and disturbed, because our understanding of our surrender should be giving us a completely different level of reaction. So something's not adding up. And then we have to understand, okay, then whatever I think is surrender, my Gurudev used to say, it's partial, conditional, or it's sentimental, superficial. So you're partially surrendering means sometimes you're surrendering. That's not really surrender. That's not the level of surrender which is enough to convince Krishna to release you from Maya. That partial surrender is not enough. And we're like, but I want it to be enough. I think it should be enough. So we're like arguing with Krishna on what are the conditions for him to order Maya to release us. We're saying, well, I think my level of surrender, this is the best I can do. This should be enough for you to order Maya to release us from our suffering condition. That's not real surrender, right? These are not, like, what is it, subjective ideas. It's not this is your truth, this is my truth, this is what's your definition of surrender? What's your definition of Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra today? Right? It's unchanging, it's unchangeable, it's eternal. So that means, what is Krishna's definition of these terms and these ideas, right? So that, I didn't hear that before I came to Bhubaneswar. But it was very bewildering to me that why I'm working so hard and I don't feel like I'm really making any advancement. If anything, I feel like I'm getting worse. And then when I told Gurudev that, then he said, well, there's no loss. No loss. So there's a huge difference between thinking we're really surrendered, right, and somebody telling you there's no loss. So that means that partial surrender, external surrender, is not the really surrender. Or conditional surrender, whatever, okay, we'll surrender, but we better get everything exactly as we wanted. And Krishna better fulfill those ideas and desires and plans which we're estimating is what we need to be happy. So if Krishna's providing all of that, then we'll surrender. So that's conditional surrender. It's like a business deal. If I do like this for you, then you'll pay me like this. Right? So we're cutting a business deal. It's like the mafia. It's like if I pay some money, protection money, right? Then the gangsters won't come and beat me up and kill my family. Right? So you just basically, it's like a payoff. Right? So our surrender is like we're trying to pay off Krishna. Like, if I just do this, can you please not make me suffer so badly? Right? It's not exactly, pure loving devotional service to the Lord. We're literally trying to buy off Krishna. And then Krishna's, we're giving like, $10, and he's like, but I want $100. So we're thinking our $10 should give us the same result as the $100, right? But Krishna says, no, I want $100. So what, our results is not matching up because we're trying to make our $10 $100. I think that $10 should be the same as $100. That should be absolute. Or we're sentimental. Oh, everything's for Krishna. I love Krishna. I'm fully surrendered to Krishna. Right? We're saying emotionally, sentimentally, superficially, and then when it comes down to our actual surrender, we're not really serious. Or we don't even know what Krishna wants us to do, and then anything that we're doing, we're saying, it's all for Krishna. Prabhupada says, it's not that you just do any damn thing, and then afterwards you say, oh, Krishna, that was for you. Prabhupada said, this is not the line of pure devotional service. Pure devotional service is Krishna ordering and instructing you as the master to the servant, this is what I want you to do. This is what you can do. That I will accept it as a devotional surrender and devotional service. Now, how are you increasing it? How are you cultivating it? Krishna is watching all of that. So when we hear that partial, conditional, sentimental, superficial, external type of surrender is not the real surrender, then that makes sense of why we're not getting the results we think we should be getting. And we can never imagine that because we're assuming that whatever we're thinking, whatever we're feeling, whatever we've calculated is absolute, is absolutely true and correct. So therefore it doesn't line up. So if we're not able to understand the reactions, Prabhupada said you judge the thing by the result. What was that question Prabhupada was asking, Devaki?
How much you grow in your spiritual life?
Yes, so Prabhupada was asking this question, how much are you growing in your spiritual life? We're supposed to be asking this question. And I remember when I would have questions and doubts about this, I would go to my guru at the time. And I would say, this is my question, this is my doubts. And then he would get furious at me, like totally disturbed and angry at me. And I was like, oh, okay, maybe I'm doing something wrong. For a while I was accepting that, okay, maybe I'm not approaching it properly, maybe I'm misunderstanding something, maybe, Then I kept trying to adjust. But then I understood, no, it's the same questions, it's the same doubts. Why I'm working like an ass for years and I'm getting worse? It's kind of like a reasonable question, don't you think? It's not like a small doubt. It's like a, how do you call it? It's like a core doubt. It's at the very core of whether you're going to make it spiritually or not type of doubt. And he said, I don't know what you're talking about. So now he doesn't even understand what I'm saying. Now that's either he doesn't really understand it, or he's not really willing to listen to understand what it is and put the effort forward to explain it in a way that satisfies me. So Prabhupada says that it's our responsibility and duty, just like Arjuna, as disciple, he's putting his doubts, his questions in front of his spiritual master. That's his job. That's his responsibility. And it's the spiritual master's responsibility to understand it, understand them, understand what is this person saying to you, what is their question, what is their doubt, and you should answer it with faith and realization according to Guru Sadhana Shastra. And if you have real faith and you have real understanding of Guru Sadhu and Shastra, that truth should convince that soul. If you just speculate something and just give your own idea, your own opinion, that's not going to satisfy anybody's soul. You need a scientific answer, isn't it? And then you have so many doubt, right? So, okay, now I had this doubt, but I'm wondering that you don't understand me, you don't want to understand me, you can't answer my question, and now you're disturbed because I have a doubt. I mean, can you imagine if Arjuna, who just trying to get out of being a suffering conditioned soul, and he says, oh Krishna, you're my spiritual master, I have this doubt. And then Krishna gets angry at Arjuna, right? Like disturbed with Arjuna. And then just says, and just storms out of the room. Says, I have nothing to say to you. You're going to be like, okay, that's what that is. But you still got the questions, you still have the doubts, the thing's still not reconciled, it's still not making sense. Where was I? I was just reading that Prabhupada was talking about how is it that Vidura is asking like these type of questions. Prabhupada saying even someone very, very advanced, this subject matter is so subtle, it's beyond subtle, that even very advanced devotees, they need some clarification, they need some scientific explanation. Which can only come from higher association. Oh, where is that? This is such an interesting point. So this is what's reminding me of this point, that what happened was when Vidura asked Maitreya, Rishi, O great and learned one, O my spiritual master, my mind is greatly illusioned by the distress of this nescience, of this ignorance. I'm requesting you how to clear it up. Prabhupada says, such bewilderment as represented here by Vidura, it takes place for some living entities, but not for everyone. So this bewilderment, it takes place for some living entities, but not for everyone. For if everyone was bewildered, there would be no possibility of a solution by higher personalities. So that's why Krishna always has a present manifestation of those persons that he can manifest and speak through in order to answer the questions and doubts of those suffering conditioned souls. If everyone is just, Krishna, oh, he's not here, and Prabhupada's not here, previous acharyas are not here, right? So we have no access, cannot hear from them. Then what if everyone is in suffering condition due to this ignorance? Then how does Krishna help anybody? So there has to be, Prabhupada says, such bewilderment represented here by Vidura takes place for some living entities, but not for everyone. Not everyone's bewildered by this. For if everyone was bewildered, there would be no possibility of a solution delivered from higher authority and personalities. So how Krishna, Krishna wants to deliver all the fallen conditioned souls, and everyone's in the Tamagun, Rajagun, deaf, dumb, and blind, suffering, trying to get out of this suffering condition, trying to reconcile everything, understand everything, and get cleared of all of the demons of doubts, but we're all in the same position. So how exactly is Krishna going to give us that intelligence and understanding of what is the situation and how to get out of the situation? Prabhupada says if everyone was in such a bewildered position, there'd be no possibility of a solution by higher personalities to get out of that situation. My Gurudev used to say, can you just go to Prabhupada and he's just going to directly answer all of your questions and destroy all of your doubts, understanding exactly your particular situation? Can you go to, what is the name for Krishna? Kripa Sindhu. Oh, Krishna, you're Kripa Sindhu. You're the ocean of mercy. Please shower your mercy on me. And then Gurudev would say that, Krishna will say, why are you coming to me? I don't have anything. I left everything down there. So I'm helping you by this person I left down there. You can get all of my mercy from him, not directly. And sometimes my Gurudev said, and then if you go to Krishna and say, oh, Kripa Sindhu, oh, ocean of mercy, please shower your mercy on me. Krishna won't even look at your face. I was like, what? You're crying, I need mercy to Krishna? And he won't even look at your face? How do you understand that? It means that you're not understanding and accepting Krishna's arrangement of how he's going to get you and give you mercy. And you're not understanding and rejecting that, and then you're running to him saying, I need mercy. Again, we're going to force Krishna how he should give us mercy. We don't have to deserve it. We don't have to really surrender. We can demand it based on our analysis of and definition of our surrender. And then we want him to directly pay us. It's like a rich man, he says, okay, to the construction people, So he's not going to pay you directly, right? The owner of the business, right? He has people working for him, right? Do your job, satisfy those people, do what you're asked, put in your hours, do quality work, right? And then the company owner, the managers, foremen, right? They'll pay you. You don't at the end of the week go to the owner, the owner of the company in another state or country and say, okay, I want my paycheck. There's a system. So yes, you need mercy, we need mercy. Krishna wants to give mercy. So how is it that we can get Krishna's mercy? We have to deserve it. We have to cry for it. We have to realize we need it without a doubt. And now, okay, what is Krishna's arrangement? Krishna says, you want to know me? You want to understand me? Surrender to my representative bona fide spiritual master. A humble state of mind, render devotional service, do submissive all reception, try to purify your heart and consciousness. Naturally, some question and doubt will come up. I'll answer everything there to my representative bona fide, purify your medium, Guru. Tattva-darshi means that he's getting tattva, he's getting the absolute truth from Krishna. And then it's interesting, Shukadev Goswami, in the next verse he says, O King Maitreya, being thus agitated by the inquisitiveness of Vidura. So Maitreya was agitated by the inquisitiveness of Vidura. And at first, Maitreya he seemed astonished. But then he replied to him without hesitation, since he was fully God conscious. So his first reaction was astonishment. But then he replied to him without hesitation, since he was fully God conscious. And the purport Prabhupada said, since the great sage Maitreya was filled with God consciousness, he had no reason to be astonished by such contradictory questions by Vidura. So if he's such God-conscious personality, he had no reason why he should be astonished by such contradictory questions by Vidura. Therefore, although as a devotee, he externally expressed surprise. So when he heard the question, he was kind of astonished and kind of surprised how you're asking this type of question. And it's as if he didn't even know how to properly reply to those questions. So as a devotee, his first instinct was, I'm amazed that you're asking this question. And then because he little hesitated in his amazement that why you're asking this question, then it looks like he doesn't know the answer to the question. So material-minded thinking will think, oh, why he's disturbed, why he's hesitating, why he's astonished, or looks kind of confused about what I'm asking. So from a material point of view, you may try to analyze that from a materialistic type of vision. So Prabhupada says, although as a devotee, Maitreya, he externally expressed surprise as if he did not know how to reply to those questions that were posed before him. But he immediately became perfectly settled and he properly replied to Vidura. So what does that mean? It means, okay, you're not expecting this type of response or this type of question or this type of contradictory. Maybe you think that they would understand more than that. Or how is it that someone on your platform is bewildered by that? Right? Even Krishna was saying to Arjuna, how somebody of your stature and your position, how could you let this happen to you? How you can be bewildered by this? So his first instinct was like, how is it like this? But he immediately became settled. What does that mean? Is he immediately depending on Krishna, the source of all knowledge and intelligence, to understand him, understand the question, and depend on Krishna to give the perfect answer. Perfect question, perfect answer, right? So he immediately became perfectly settled, and then he properly replied to Vidura. Anyone who is a devotee of the Lord knows about the Lord to some extent. Anyone who is a devotee of the Lord, depending on what quality of devotee, right? He knows, because Krishna says, as you surrender, I reward you accordingly. As you're surrendering, I reveal myself to you proportionally. So it's not all or nothing. So as we're trying to surrender, as we're trying to serve the Lord, whatever sincerity and seriousness is there, although incomplete, He's reciprocating and revealing according to what we deserve. So anyone who's a devotee of the Lord knows about the Lord to some extent, and devotional service to the Lord makes him able to know everything by the grace of the Lord. So you're a devotee of the Lord means you're doing devotional service, right? And that, but you only know the Lord to some extent. So what type of devotional service are we doing? That Krishna is only revealing himself to us to some extent, right? And then, in the same sentence, Prabhupada says, and devotional service to the Lord makes him able to know everything by the grace of the Lord. So in the same sentence, this devotional service lets these devotees to know something about Krishna to some extent. In the same sentence, that devotional service to the Lord makes that devotee able to understand everything by the grace of the Lord. One sentence. Devotional service. So what type of devotional service? Right? Is it partial, conditional, and superficial? Is it mixed bhakti? Or is it full surrender and complete dependence on the Lord, whereby Krishna says, I will reveal myself to you completely. Only by pure unalloyed devotional service can you know me as I am in tattva. So what type of devotional service are we talking about? In the same sentence. One is only partially understanding to some extent, and the other one is knowing everything by the grace and the mercy of the Lord. Although a devotee may apparently express himself to be ignorant, he is full of knowledge in every intricate matter. So externally he may appear to be ignorant or some kind of disqualification. But because they are completely depending on the source of all knowledge and intelligence, then even the most intricate matter can be revealed by the mercy of Guru and Krishna. That's why it says, one who has unflinching faith in Krishna and the Guru, all the purports of all the revealed scriptures is automatically revealed. Interesting point, isn't it? It's funny because I read all of those, and every one of those points I was saying, oh, I wish I could like talk about that point. And then somehow or other Krishna brought it around that I could actually hit those points that I thought were like very, very interesting, how Krishna is always manifesting. Because otherwise if everyone's ignorant, I mean it's kind of common sense. Right? If Krishna and his devotees are all on transcendental absolute platform, and we're all conditioned under the modes of material nature and bewildered and perplexed by Maya, how exactly are we going to understand how to get out of this trouble if everybody's more or less the same? So Krishna has to and wants to qualify and purify personalities to be instruments that he can use to deliver that knowledge of very, very subtle, intricate aspects of spiritual life. What is those tattva vichar? So one has to hear from tattva vid guru. That means those tattvas are scientific, it's unchangeable, it's eternal. It's not, what is your understanding of that tattva? Right? What is your understanding of? And Gurudev, many times he would be reading in literally every word. He was saying, let's define what that word means. So every possible word that you could perceive either apparently or absolutely, he would define it absolutely. So if you're taking all absolute understanding of each of those words, you're going to hear that and realize that on an absolute platform by their mercy. If you're taking it all apparently, based on feelings and emotions and speculations and my opinion and your opinion, then it's a chaos. You cannot come to any absolute conclusion when all the parts are faulty and inferior and manipulated, controlled by Maya. What other nuggets did we find in here today, this morning? Do you like this topic? So how the Guru is agitated by the inquisitiveness of Vidura. And then how is it that Vidura, such a great personality, pure devotee of the Lord, why does he have all of these type of questions? How is that bewildering or confusing to him? Now, is he asking for everybody else? Or is he also just trying to get clarification himself about what is that science? Those, depending on the rasa, relationship with Krishna, they may have jnana or not. They could realize the whole purpose of the Vedas and be fixed as eternal servant of Krishna and not technically know every way in how the Krishna is manifesting, especially in material world, through all the different elements. But for some reason, if they want to and need to know that, they may ask that question. And then by the mercy of Krishna, mercy of his representative, then he's just giving him the additional information. So whatever you need to know, whatever Krishna's devotee needs to know, then Krishna has to make an arrangement internally, externally, and through the Shastra to deliver that understanding in those tattvas. Any questions so far? Yes? Sham.
Hare Krishna.
Hi, Paul.
When I was in, when I met the devotees, I felt that reciprocation and Krishna's, when you were talking about surrendering, and
When what?
when I met the devotees,
When you're with the devotees?
no, when I met the devotees in London,
When he met the devotees first time in London.
Oh, yeah.
then I felt that reciprocation and Krishna being more present, and that satisfaction, happiness, that
Was it spiritual or material?
or at least less suffering.
I mean, what if everyone in your life is like a bully and you know, has no culture and no nice dealing, and they're not friendly, and they don't treat you like a human being, and then all of a sudden you meet somebody and they're more cultured and they're more soft and they're more compassionate and they have some better kind of even material qualities, and they're just looking after you and they're just like inquiring about you and they're being friendly to you. It seems like it's already like big difference compared to what we were experiencing before. So it's not difficult to think how we would think like, oh, that seems spiritual. Well, compared to what we were perceiving before, like if you had your friends and they're like perfect brahmanas, right, and they're manifesting some type of Brahminical culture or behavior, it's quite attractive from a material point of view. But it doesn't necessarily make it transcendental. So it's an improvement But is that improvement material or is it spiritual? And the only way you can analyze that improvement, whether it's an upgrade materially or whether it's transcendental, is by understanding what is the platform of that personality and their consciousness and understanding and motivation that they're acting from. Then you can understand that there's a distinction between transcendental and just a higher level of material behavior or satisfaction on some kind of social platform. When we first met the devotees, we thought these people are like demigods. They have some shakti, they have some knowledge, they're like, something's going on here, right? It's like bewildering, right? So everyone's like a demigod. Well, compared to who you were hanging around with before, and how we're acting before, yeah, they are like demigods, right? But then as we're going, then we understand, okay, there's different levels of devotees. And then as you're trying to understand what you need and what you're trying to understand, that means that different higher levels of devotees may be required to answer your question and to destroy your doubts. And that may come immediately, or it may come gradually as you're going through the process. And what worked previously only worked up to a certain point, and now you have further questions, further doubts. Now you want to understand more and more the intricacies of the philosophy. Then you understand, okay, I like this person, they did help me, but now it's becoming insufficient because I can't not move forward because I don't want to disturb this person, or I don't want them to feel bad, right? But we have a particular need. Our soul has a need to understand absolute truth, and so we should not let. It's almost like if your mother, your father, your family members, right? That we don't want to fully surrender, become devotee because we're worrying about our family members. So even in material organization, or I mean supposedly a spiritual organization, you know, you may meet devotees that are more like your brother or your father or your mother or sister than even your own family. And then they may become more significant in your life than even anything that you had in your materialistic life. But it doesn't necessarily mean that it's spiritual or that it is, how do you say, sufficient or complete of what you need spiritually. So it's like in India, especially, they have like a family guru, and they come and they bless everything, and they come to the birthday party, and they bring some auspiciousness, and you know, bless all the kids, and you know, they get some stick and something, right? Some brahmanas are coming, they're just throwing water and flowers around. They're like, somehow it's like, right? Even in the shop in the morning, the guy's selling, you know, pots and pans, you know, and you get the brahmana, he's just blessing everything, right? Right? They're worshiping Ganesh. I hope I make a lot of money today, you know. It's all spiritual, man, you know. And then after a while, it's like, you know, I got a philosophical question, you know. I need to know, instead of waving some incense in front of Ganesh, right? Like how do I actually save my soul, for instance, you know? Okay, so I need more than just the local brahmana or the family guru, right? Now you need like the real thing. And then you can't say, you know, to the family guru who you know your whole life, like, you know, I know you're my guru, and I love you, and you love me, and blah, 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 right? But I need to go to like a real guru now. And then the guy's like, "Ooh, I feel offended, disappointed," right? So then we're not saying, it's like Shukracharya, right? Just giving bad advice. It's like, well, he's my guru, he's trying to help me. He was, you know, it worked for a while, I like him. Okay. It's like a, you know, it's like a material relationship. Now we're trying to move on, right? So, could be like that, right? And then if you're really coming from suffering condition and people aren't nice to you, and all of a sudden people are being reasonably nice to you, and serving you some prasadam, and showing you like where is your room, and that's like a really nice upgrade. It's nice. Nice behavior. But it's not, it may not meet everything later that you need as you're progressing through your spiritual progression set. Yeah.
So when I asked the question, and explaining how initially at the beginning I was experiencing more, I felt at least more Krishna conscious, at least more surrendering.
You were the person you're asking.
No, myself telling the devotees.
You were Krishna conscious, or the devotee was?
No, I was explaining that initially I felt I was surrendering more and Krishna being more present, guiding me.
He was getting a lot of bliss in the beginning, like a lot of recitation.
And then the answer I got was that it's a honeymoon period. And then after the honeymoon, then you have to...
The honeymoon was over soon?
Oh, yes, the honeymoon was over, then and you have to work
At
hard.
the end of the
hard for it.
weekend, the honeymoon was over, you know?
So is that right understanding, or is that also...
Then you fell out of love after that. You were in love before that,
Yeah,
when you got married. Then you fell out of love at the end of the long weekend.
It became more
Then you
complex.
got divorced. Then you're looking for divorce. It's like Las Vegas, you know, you're just driving in your car, you get married out the window of the, like a fast food marriage, you know. You don't even have to shut your car up, you know, you just roll down the window, sign some papers, okay, you're married, you know. And then you go through this long parking lot, and the other side is like a divorce, right? So you want to keep everything spiritual, you know. You got married, now you got divorced. I had second thoughts after all. So, it's all, you know, material world is all kinds of really strange, amazing, confusing, bewildering situations we got to go through. You know, we join a spiritual institution and we're thinking, okay, then now that everything is absolute. No, you went into the hospital, right? Everyone's in the hospital because they have some disease. You don't go in the hospital and just say, you know, why are these people diseased? So everyone's in the process. Sometimes you get a good doctor and good medicine, and sometimes you don't. What happens if you don't get a good doctor and good medicine? You say, thank you for trying to help me. I need a better doctor and I need some better medicine. And then they're offended. It's like, okay, I won't go to a better doctor and get better medicine because I don't want to offend you. Right? We're trying to please everybody. Don't want to hurt. You know, it's a devotee's mood, right? Don't want to hurt anybody, don't want to disturb anybody. So it's kind of natural. But at the same time, you have needs for your soul. You know, you need to survive it. This is a battlefield. So you have to move forward. And if people tried to help you, okay, we appreciate it, I'm grateful, you tried, maybe some ways they helped you, maybe in other ways it was like, okay, That was a disaster. But it's all part of the learning curve. Sometimes we say, now you know what you don't want. Now you know what doesn't work. So you got that experience. Now all of a sudden you think, okay, you know, I've already had a few gurus here now. Diksha and Shiksha gurus, senior devotees, blah, blah, blah. I need like a really, really guru. I don't need a family guru. I don't need a friend. You know, Arjuna said, let's stop the friendly talks. I need you to be my guru, isn't it? I need some answers. I need to get out of trouble. I need to figure out what we do, what I should do. Make sense? Because until Krishna is satisfied, you will not be satisfied. And we have to be conscious and honest enough to understand whether we are satisfied. If we are not satisfied, it just means Krishna is not satisfied. That means we're not really surrendered, and therefore Krishna is not really satisfied. Therefore we're not satisfied. That's why we're not satisfied. Because we have a problem in the quality and the quantity of our surrender. And the quality of the purity of the motivation of that surrender. Everything goes great, get everything you want. Yeah, this is a great process. Now all of a sudden you're going through heavy obstacles and difficulties and challenges and tests and austerities and purification and we're like, I don't know if I want to go through all of that. We don't want to pay the price. It's like material consciousness, right? We want everything for nothing. I remember I met some devotee, he came in my room, he said, if you're my guru, you should give me Krishna Prema. And I'm like when? He's like right now. Like right now. I had another devotee came in and said, if you're my guru, you should tell me all of my anarthas. And I'm like, when? He said, like right now. I'm like, you're ready to hear all of that? Yes. It's okay, just take it step by step, man, you know? Whatever we need to know, that's what's going to come out. The process, gradually, automatically, these things will be revealed to you. No, if you're my guru, you should tell me all of my anarthas right now. What, and then just get rid of all of them also? And give you Krishna Prema while you're at it? And then you're not even sure if you even want to be a devotee? Oh, Krishna. I'm just trying to be real, man, you know? We have in English, they need a dose of reality. You know what is a dose of reality? Anyone else? Oh, this is the point I was looking for. While I was talking, I was scrolling and I was like, where's that point, you know? And then when Sham was back to honeymoon mood, then I said, now we'll discuss. So this is text number 15, and Vidura, he telling to Maitreya, Rishi, "Oh, powerful sage, my lord, all of my doubts about the Supreme Personality of Godhead and the living entities have now been removed by your convincing words. So whatever questions, whatever doubts, by mercy of Guru and Krishna, proper speaker, proper hearer, all qualification is met by that mercy. I'm understanding all of this thing now. And this presentation, your words has convinced me. If it's not Krishna, Mahaprabhu, Parampara, Guru Sadhu Shastra, there's no convincing word that's going to convince your soul. My mind is now perfectly entering into them. So instead of worrying about what you're hearing, he's accepting now what he's hearing and he's participating. Before we're like fending it off. We're doing submissive our reception and we're like, okay, which part of this am I going to accept, right? So when you actually got convinced by the mercy of Guru and Krishna, because all your doubts are left and the answers are very convincing, now your mind, he says, my mind is now perfectly entering into them. So in other words, now he is convinced and faithful, and all fear is gone, and now he enthusiastically is participating with that information and that process. So Prabhupada says in the purport, the science of Krishna, or the science of God, Isha Tattva, and the living entity, Jiva Tattva, it is so subtle that even a personality like Vidura has to consult persons like the sage Maitreya. Even Vidura is trying to understand what is Jiva Tattva, what is Guru Tattva, what is all of these tattvas. And we're like trying to figure out whether we even want to be a devotee, and we're like, no, I understand these tattvas. Right? That's why I say we're assuming a lot, like way too much. We don't have a proper, understanding of the reality of our position and condition. And because of that, we're miscalculating everything. The science of these tattvas is so subtle that even a personality like Vidura has to consult persons like the sage Maitreya. Doubts about the eternal relationship between the Lord and the living entity, these are created by mental speculators. So if we are mental speculators and we're trying to understand subtle philosophy, which even Vidura needs information about, then how by just associating with other materialistic mental speculators is all of that going to be understood? So I found that a very interesting statement by Srila Prabhupada, that even a person like Vidura, even a personality like Vidura has to consult persons like the sage Maitreya. So we should always be in this mood of seeking the highest possible association which is available. Now, who are they? Where are they? Only you can pray to Krishna. That somehow or other, if this is the requirement, if this is what you really need to advance in your spiritual life. I don't know who are these people. But I know I need someone like that. Wherever they may be. So when I first joined in ISKCON, the first question I asked the Prabhupada disciple, who's the most advanced guru? I said, if I'm going to surrender, and I'm going to, check into this transcendental university, I want the best, topmost guru. So for some while, I was like happy meeting different people, but after a while, it's like, no, I need like the best that's available. Even I was thinking about this point about how it says when you come to the holy Dham, you should seek out Sadhu Sangha. You should seek out the Sadhu Guru Vaishnavas in order to hear this Hari-katha Krishna-katha. I was thinking, such a big place, so many buildings, so many devotees here, coming, will come in the future. And then I was just thinking, like, if you're just this devotee and you're sitting in your apartment or your flat, and then you're looking out at all of these buildings and all of these flats, and then you say, okay, who are those souls who are so advanced that may be somewhere in the middle of all of this situation? Because if they're there, and whoever they are, we should always be like greedy to get this type of association, if it's available. Now, I saw personally, by hearing and associating with such a personality, such a Premi Bhakta, Nitya Siddha, I could understand in just such a short period of time. I was with Maharaja, say I was there for 3 years, right? Then out of the 3 years, half of that, Maharaj was traveling, preaching, or I was living in another place. So if you really add up all of the association that I had, it was like 1.5 years, right? And then how much time in the course of the day am I listening to Maharaj? It's like a Bhagavatam class, right? So it's like maybe 2-3 hours, right? In most of those days in that 1.5 years, and then some on the Padayatra, which was like an evening class, and then maybe some, say 1/3 of that time, Maharaj came out at night time for darshan. So anyway, I was calculating like the amount of total time, as much as I could kind of reasonably classify it. And it came down to this amount of time. And then I'm sitting here, my Gurudev left his body in 1996, right? So what is that now? How many years ago? Huh? 26 years, is it? I can't even relate to that number because I feel so much how he's with me, especially when I'm preaching. So I can't relate to like, you know, that like he's gone for 26. I never feel like he's gone or he left. But for the sake of the discussion, it's like 26 years ago. So everything I'm doing and everything I'm preaching and everything I'm explaining to you was from over 26 years ago. So, if you're associating for, 1.5 years and then you're carrying that for 26 years. So it's not how much time you have, it's what is the quality of our hearing and the mercy we're getting by the mercy of Guru and Krishna to be able to hear and understand it. That can happen in a moment. You see how much association did Srila Prabhupada have with Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur? Not that much. Or Srila Gaur Govinda Swami, how much did he really have associating with Srila Prabhupada? Not that much. But the time that he did have, it's completely maximized from an absolute spiritual platform. So it's more the quality of the association and the hearing and the mercy that we can receive in even a short period of time. I don't know how I got up to that. Oh, I was thinking that, so if I was just some devotee who came to like the Holy Dham and it's saying, okay, I want to be more than just like the asses and the cows and the buffalo, and just taking bath in the Ganga, right? It says you should try to associate and hear something important that can help you. So I was just imagining, like, look, I was chanting, I was looking out the building, and I was just thinking, the devotees just looking at this, like, spiritual community and saying, okay, who are those souls? Are they available? Are they hidden? That's why when Devi came to my room, I'm saying, who are the advanced souls that we should be like eager and greedy to associate with? And then I understood that, when I met my spiritual master, that was Krishna's arrangement. That's Prabhupada's arrangement. All we can do is desire it. So we should always desire the best and the most association that we can possibly get by Krishna's mercy, by Vaishnava's mercy, because those are the moments that we can be the most benefited from spiritual point of view, to help us to understand everything, to solve our problem, to get the clarification, to get rid of the doubts, to understand what does Krishna want us to do, what service can we do that Krishna accepts as surrender. So like this. All right, any last thing? Yes.
I want to ask you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hi, Bo. Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhu.
Hi.
Prabhu, my question is how life is first originated in our earth.
How what?
How did life begin on earth?
I don't know. That happened a long time ago. Like a really long time ago. When did you come here? How old are you? How old are you?
What age?
17. 17.
Your soul is only 17 years old? The soul is eternal. You understand my language?
Yes.
You do? I asked how old are you? You said 17.
Yes.
But the soul is eternal. So that means the soul is not 17. Only the body, this particular body is 17. So who is the soul? How did we get here? Why? What is the purpose? Why we're here? Why am I in this condition? Why am I suffering? What is the purpose of my life? What am I trying to achieve? What are my goals? What are the results and effects of those goals? Positively, negatively, materially, spiritually? These are the things human being is supposed to be asking, these type of questions. And if we're really sincere and serious to understand it, then Krishna will give intelligence and understanding how to understand all of this information. But the soul has been since time immemorial, it says. You see, he's just coming now, right? So should we go back and explain all of Jiva Tattva all over again? And then when I explained all of that, I was like, okay, is that clear so I don't have to discuss this again and again and again, right? But every soul has the same kind of inquiry. Some souls do. I remember one time in New York City, in New York Temple, Brooklyn, that someone asked Srila Govinda Swami, Maharaj, who's Krishna? Right? So as a preacher, if someone says, who's Krishna? They say, oh, Krishna's tu Bhagavan Swayam. You'll just start preaching to them, right? But the Maharaj, he just said, you just ask this devotee. He'll explain everything to you. And it was very interesting because his main thrust of his preaching is not really for the brand new devotee. He'll preach to them if they're there, if they're in the class, but the emphasis is not like pre-primary. This is supposed to be postgraduate program. How do you go from mixed bhakti to pure bhakti? How do you go from sentimental, artificial, partial surrender to real surrender? So this emphasis is just on this side of the kind of, not pendulum, but this side of the scale. So it's not just ordinary, who's Krishna? Okay, we thought Krishna is God, we are servant of God. But we're trying to say, Krishna, what exactly do you want me to do as an act of surrender that you will accept in such a way that you will order Maya to release me from this constant suffering position and condition? Because nothing else is going to work except knowing what that is and us having the strength, intelligence, and willingness to know it and to try to follow it. And then Krishna will be the witness and the judge. Yes, you. He needs the microphone. He just wants his mother to hear he wants his mother to hear the son asking a nice philosophical question, make her happy. Yes.
Hare Krishna, Shri Gurudev.
Now I understand why you wanted to bring your mom. She's more simple and happy devotee than you are. Isn't it? She's thinking, oh, I'll give mercy to my mother, right? You're lucky you have a mother like that. It's because of having mother like that you're even here. Let's be honest, man.
So,
that's why you're trying to pay her back spiritually. You have some debt, right?
Somehow by Krishna's mercy, I could realize that if someone wants to be a pure devotee, then he should not have any material desires. But when I see someone,
if you have material desires, then you have to get the suffering and the reaction and the punishment if we engage in sinful activity. So if we're maintaining material desires, it will force you into that activity, and then we'll be forced into taking punishment and reaction, suffering because of that. So if we want to be devotee, then intelligence is like, okay, this is not effective. And then especially if we want to really be devotee, servant, proper servant of Guru Krishna, this has to come out. This has to be uprooted. That's what it means to be a devotee. We're entering into a purification process, doing tapodivyam to uproot sinful thoughts and desires, activities and reactions. That's what we're supposed to be doing here. Otherwise, what is the point of being here? What is the point of this process? So
when I see someone in a powerful position, having a lot of wealth, then it's very painful for me to watch it. And then I'm little
it gives
weak.
you pain seeing someone in a powerful position?
With a lot of money.
Why? Because you want that? Why don't you find a guru who's got a lot of money and a lot of temples, right? And then he'll just engage you in one of his temples and you can get power, position, and a lot of money. You just need one of those type of gurus. They're available.
But I want to serve Krishna. I don't want it, but it's very painful.
Well, you need a guru sent by Krishna and not a guru sent by Maya. If you want Maya, you'll get a Maya guru. If you want Krishna and you have a Maya guru, you'll realize, okay, this is incompatible. It's not gonna work.
By like somehow by Krishna's mercy, I could understand that like you are purely like you're a pure devotee, and it's Krishna's arrangement.
I'm just telling you perfect knowledge from perfect source. That's all I'm trying to do. This is what I heard. This is what benefit I got. This is what I realized. How it works. That's why I'm convinced in it. So with that, I'm just trying to tell you this is what works and this is what doesn't work. I did it all. That's why I said, if you want to be miserable, you want uncontrolled mind and senses, you want suffering and reactions and punishment, and if we want that kind of lifestyle, then do like this. If you want out of that, and you've had it, then we have to do like this. It's a science. The facts are the facts. And Krishna's Parampara are laying out what are Krishna's instructions, what is the philosophy, what is the Siddhanta, and how to execute it through Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. If everyone's just giving their own definitions, where are we going to be? Well, I'm just looking for somebody where I agree with his perception of Guru Sadhu Shastra. That you're going to get cheated. We have to know for sure what is Guru Sadhu and Shastra. And without Krishna's mercy and his bona fide authorized representative's mercy and the Shastra, no one can understand it. It says the seed of Prem Bhakti is unflinching faith in Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. So we're thinking we all have faith in Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. But how we're going to have faith? How we're going to have unflinching faith if we're on material contaminated bodily platform under modes of material nature? Okay, there's this thing called Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. It's coming from God. It's absolute. We're trying to figure out what is done. All right. If it's sincere, Krishna says, I'll give you intelligence, understanding how to get there, how to understand it. So what's your worry? It gives you pain, right? He doesn't feel the threefold miseries, but his pain is when he sees someone who's in a big position with a lot of money and power. That's his pain. That's called enviousness, jealousy, right? So if you're envious and jealous, means you're selfish, then how you'll be happy? How will be happy manifesting demoniac qualities? We're supposed to be devoted. The purer we become, the closer we get to the soul, the more we'll manifest godly, saintly thoughts, desires, activities, symptoms, qualities like that. So why don't you just go get another, like a real rich guru who's got a lot of temples and zones and some power. Go get a job. So that's why it always says, what is your goal? It's like a GPS, right? You get to punch in, what is your final destination point? Right? Then when you put in the final address, then it gives you what is the path to get there. If we're like, well, I'm not quite sure where I want to go, then you're just driving up and down every street. And then it's like sightseeing. And you're like, why are you driving up and down? He says, I don't know what I'm looking for. So we're not fixed up the goal. You don't fix up the goal, you can't fix up the path. You want karma, jnana, yoga, bhakti. What's a goal? What's a desire? That's why it says, all we can do, Prabhupada says, all we can do is, the soul can do is desire. Are we desiring spiritually or materially? And then what's the strength of the desire, spiritually and materially? And the strength of those desires is what is the Kurukshetra, is what we're balancing. And that's what's testing us. What do we really want? So we're trying to cheat the system because we want to pursue materially, but externally we want to feel ourselves situated in surrender. So the body, right, is in the path of surrender, but the mind and the desires is in the path of Maya. So if we want to just say, well, I look like a devotee, I'm living in the temple, I go to the programs, right? But if we're maintaining all of the thoughts and desires and plans for sinful life, materialistic life, then it's going to be a disconnect. Then Krishna says, then your intelligence is splayed out, and then your resolute determination will not manifest. Your faith and resolute determination to go on that path, whether materially or spiritually, will not manifest. Because we're bewildered as to what are we really trying to do. It's not fixed up. And that's why if we realize, okay, suffering makes you fixed up, because there's nothing else you can do except figure out how to get out of your suffering condition. Right? If all your options are just a continuation of your suffering position, is that really options to think about? So how determined are we to solve these problems? Means we have to absolutely know what is the process. And until we are in that process, we cannot expect those results. And what are we going to do about it? That's the test. So unless the suffering is heavy enough, that's why Gurudev says it's heavy lashes required. Like Arjuna, he got not one more second he can live like that. And he said, okay, that's it, I admit my defeat, my way isn't going to work, I fully surrender. Now you please tell me, accept me as your disciple, tell me exactly what I have to do. Then surrender solves everything. Then Krishna orders Maya to release you. So what is our goal? We're just like, I'm trying to understand everything. Okay, when all you can try to understand is, I'm suffering and I don't want to suffer. That's a blessing. Because there's nothing else you have to worry about. Does it make sense? Any other points or questions? Mataji, are you listening to with your heart or your head today? That's a very loaded question, isn't it? We just met, right? And I'm saying, are you listening to me with your heart or your head? It's like, wow, that's a very personal question, isn't it? But I'm just going off of other days. She said, I need to listen not from my head, but from my heart, right? Oh, he can translate.
If I will heart, my head will be in the same place where my heart.
That's a very complicated answer. That's a very tricky answer. But this is what I expect around here, so you're in a good company, you know? Everybody's a philosopher here, you know? That's why I say I'm just preaching to myself. I don't know who can hear what I'm saying. I know I'm hearing the right information. I don't know how you guys are taking it, you know? I can't worry about that. I just have to get the right information, say the right information, and then how that works, Krishna knows. But by her answer, she's separating what's in her head and what's in her heart. So that means that her head and her body is separate from her soul. But she's hoping that all of that, she'll get a spiritual body where her spiritual body is combined with her soul. So I understood her answer like that.
She says this knowledge, this philosophy is helping me a lot because I had a lot of doubts, a lot of questions, and now I getting my doubts resolved. It's helping me, and it's very sweet philosophy.
Acha.
I can feel the spiritual flow.
Your Krishna is very kind that you're taking it in a sweet way. That's not. I'm happy for you that Krishna is helping you like that.
Maharaj, thank you very much.
Hare Krishna. Thank you for coming. Keep coming if you like. We're not forcing anybody to come though. If we just get everyone to realize that we're in a suffering condition and we want to completely solve it, and then you're getting information in a process which will solve it practically, then you'll come back. Because then you feel some benefit. If you don't feel some benefit, why will you just keep coming back? There must be something about that information which makes sense and which is convincing. And if we present as it is, not adding, subtracting anything, then by Krishna's mercy, Krishna Prabhupada mercy, then those words will directly hit your soul. And you'll hear what you need to hear. And gradually all your questions will be answered and all your doubts, everything can be gradually pacified. It took a long time to get in trouble. We have a lot of misconception. So it's going to take some time to solve all of that. So we have to just be enthusiastic, confident that the process will work, and Rupa Goswami says, but patient also. So keep coming, and if you have any questions or doubts or anything, anytime, myself, devotees, we're here to try to be as helpful as possible. Thank you for coming, I appreciate it.
Thank you for care.
Hare Krishna. This is the real devotee care department. Because we're not just talking about it to satisfy your sentiment. we're trying to give you information and a very real process by which you can really solve your problem and get free from your suffering anxiety. You don't need a separate psychologist or a separate process. This process is perfect because it's coming from Krishna and being delivered by his representatives in the Parampara and in the Shastra. It just has to be heard and followed. We're not telling you to go rob a bank or something. We're not telling you to go to Afghanistan or Syria and fight with the terrorists. We're just saying, how do we learn to desire to really want to surrender to Krishna? How do we go from our, thinking we're already doing everything surrender-wise to, wow, I have a lot of work still to do in my surrender. So we're breaking down the illusion to what is the reality. And that's required. Otherwise we're just sitting on some sentimental, artificial, theoretical platform. And that's not going to work that way. That's why we're confused, that's why we're disappointed. So we have to try to settle all of that properly. Everybody, thank you very much, appreciate it. Shishigorni Thai ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Srila Gaur Govinda Swami, Srila Gurudeva ki, Samaveda Bhaktivedanta ki, Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari. Thank you, everybody. Hare Krishna. Even Vidura is trying to understand the tattvas. And we're just like reading under the modes of material nature. And we're thinking by our reading we're going to understand everything. Even in one sentence, one devotional service is partial realization and the other half of the sentence is devotional service to understand everything. That seems confusing, doesn't it? In one sentence. What does that mean? How do you understand that? And then when you don't understand, you just, okay, it's some interesting point that I don't really understand. Let me just keep reading and just get something that I can understand. Right? We should understand every point, every sentence. Not just read till you see something that, oh, I sort of understand what this point is about. Right? You feel more happy now? We have cookies. This will make you more happy. If the class didn't make you happy, then this cookie will. And if they combine both of them, that's even better. Can I sit down for this one? No, let me stand. That's better. Hare Krishna. Are you ready? Hare Krishna. The honeymoon is over, man. Huh? The dream is over. The illusion is over. Hare Krishna. You're doing so much satsanga.